Welcome to the Solemn Tones podcast. Today we are talking about, well, I'm just gonna rant. I have this little Facebook thing open right here. We all know, I guess, Jared Alonji, or at least his YouTube channel. He used to be this how to be a metalcore vocalist, and he would just make fun of all the stereotypical stuff a metalcore vocalist would say on stage. He did the same for pop punk and deathcore and all that kind of shit. And so he's making an album together with some big guy, Matt or Paddy or whatever the hell from a big pop punk band, and I think also Lauren Babic, a well-known YouTuber. They made a crowdfunding for this album, and they asked for $50,000. And so suddenly the whole internet had an opinion about it, of course, as they always do. And this opinions kind of war then seeped into producer forums. Now the thing is, I always find it hilarious when producers bitch about musicians making money, because they will then come around and say, hey, I should be paid more as a producer. Do you know I put so much in my craft, and if you're good, you would be making enough money to pay it back anyway, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, so on one hand, you need to be paid way more, and musicians need to start respecting your craft. But then the second musicians do something that's even remotely business-minded, they are suddenly money-hungry, greedy pieces of shit. Like, what the actual fuck? Now, I'm not gonna call out specific people because I'm not in this for war. I'm just trying to be on the record saying my actual opinion on this whole debacle, because I want to be on the right side of history, and I think I am. So I did not get into the war myself, but so people are saying 50,000 is way too much for an album, blah 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 blah. So you go into the crowdfunding and you see how they are dividing this up. So first of all, 5,000 for recording and editing. Now, and then 12,000 for mixing and mastering. You suddenly have people going, oh, 17,000 for an album, that's way too much. Because all they think of is their buddy in their garage doing it for 100 a song. If you have one song where you ask $100 for a full album, that would be $1,200. But that's also going to be crap because you just don't charge that little for production if you're actually decent and have been doing it for a while. So $17,000. 12,000 for mixing and mastering. So this would mean that for a 12-song album, that is $1,000 per song for mixing and mastering. Considering the rates of big people like Joey Sturgeon and so forth, when they were like in their peak of doing albums constantly, that is really fair. That is like the typical rate for a big name producer. So like people going, that's way too much. I'm like, you're in this kind of industry where you are trying to grow to a point where you can charge such amounts yourself. So how are you now being super pissed off about them paying such amounts for production? Like, the whole production forums are usually filled with people going, we're not paid enough. And now that the musicians are going to pay enough, it is suddenly a big deal and way too much. And then the argument is, yes, but they're independent artists. How does that matter? The point, like the goal of musicians right now in this 2018 industry should be to remain independent and still do everything labels do. So yes, they need budget in order to do that. How is that so weird? There should be no difference between an independent artist or a giant signed act if they are both reaching the same amounts of people. And that is absolutely the case for Lauren Babic and Jared Alonji. And I think Paddy is even signed. So like his solo work is different from the label work. Now, they are saying media, artwork, videos, etc. is between 1,500 and 2,000. That is way too little. Like, how the fuck do you even make a music video for that little? So if they're doing music videos for multiples, this amount is actually way too little already. It will probably either be shit or they are taking budget from other pieces into that budget. Then distribution and publishing, 250 to 400. That is also way too fucking low, because that's not enough to do an actual album push on Facebook advertising or whatever. Travel, flights, lodging between 1,000 and 1,500. That sounds about right. It's 3 people. I guess 2 of them will go to the location of the third one. Fulfillment, merchandise, shipping, etc. 18,000. People were bitching about this, saying that it's way too much. Depends which designers you are getting. And also, I think people are forgetting that that money actually also goes into stocking up the amount of merchandise for the people who haven't ordered yet. So not only does this create the merch that people are ordering right now, it also creates the merch for people that will be ordering in the future. So it basically creates their whole stock. So don't get that twisted. Then Kickstarter fee, processing fees, and taxes. Now this is something people seem to be forgetting. At least 20% is going to the government already if you're in America. Be happy you're not in Europe, because half would be go to the government. Fuck us, right? So like, first of all, 50,000 it's a lot of money. But if you put it into perspective, you have 3 people putting in months and months and months of work into an album distributed to people, and those people are only following them for their years of work they put in beforehand. Like, consider that the only reason they can ask 50,000 right now is because they have been putting in the years in order to build up the following. So why is it so weird that they now try to capitalize on that following for once? Like, people go, oh, but they're making money from their videos on YouTube already. Like, do you know how little YouTube actually pays out? You wouldn't be saying that kind of stupid shit if you actually knew what you were talking about. YouTube ads don't pay shit. The point of building a YouTube following right now is to have people that you can then leverage into something else. There is, I could turn on YouTube ads right now and I would give 0 fucks. Like, not on my small channels, of course, but like, I have a channel with 7K subscribers, which is not a lot. But what I get from that, considering what my 1 million minutes watched per month, is absolutely jack shit. 1 million minutes watched per month. That's actually really close to what some of these independent musicians are reeling in. And you get like literally nothing. It's just, you could almost ignore that amount. So don't say, oh, but they're making money from their videos, because they're not. The point of building your audience on YouTube or Instagram or whatever the hell is that you have that following and then can sell them something else. So that something else, in the case of a musician, is an album and merch. And whether they crowdfund that up front or take it afterwards is completely irrelevant, because they're gonna have to take it somehow or starve. And that's actually a second thing I really wanted to touch upon. Even if 50,000 is going to their pockets, like a piece of that is going to their pockets, why does that matter? They are still putting in the work, and they are giving the albums and the shirts as a trade for the amount of, like, for the amounts people fund. So isn't that the exact same thing as selling a shirt or selling an album, apart from the fact that it's upfront? Like, they have to make some kind of profit. Why else would they do it? For the love of music. Yes, sure, but the love of music doesn't put fucking food on the table. The love of music didn't keep them alive in the years and years of building this brand and building this audience. So why are you so fucking butthurt when they finally get to monetize that audience a little bit? Like, there is such a weird fucking divide. How can you be charging small bands who you know don't make a shit? Like, you are charging easily like 300 for mixing a song of a band of which you know damn well they're going nowhere, but you are still taking their money. So that is like somewhat hypocritical, but that's fine, because it's not your job to make them huge. However, how can you do that on one hand and then go hella pissed when an established musician is gonna make money? Like, I just don't fucking get it. Like, I do get it, it's just hypocritical frustration, but musicians need to make fucking money. So if they can make money this way, good on them. Finally, they get some return after years and years of putting the work into their craft. Finally, there's one more point I need to bring up, because people really seem to not understand how the fuck crowdfunding works. So, as you know, the goal amount is 50,000. And so, I don't know why these plebs don't know this, Sorry for saying plebs, but I mean, come on, this is basic crowdfunding 101. In crowdfunding, and I had actually had classes on this, very, very specific classes from someone who had been doing crowdfunding for huge companies for years. You don't actually get all the money, like your 50,000. You don't get that from the people online and stuff. Like 1/3 of that amount you need to raise before your crowdfunding campaign even goes up. So either from a bank or your own pocket or some kind of benefactor, but 1/3 you need to have that money already. Because if you start your crowdfunding campaign and there is 0 out of 50,000, the chance that people will actually crowdfund diminishes so greatly that the large majority of crowdfunding campaigns started from nothing fail miserably. So you need, like, just take one crowdfunding class, and this is one of the first things they say. You need a big portion of that 50,000 or whatever your goal is already in your pocket. It has to be there so you can artificially pump up the numbers so people are more inclined to support. Keep that in mind. So not only just to have, like, let's say 20% funded on your launch already, so people are like, whoa, there's hype around this, but then let's say it's starting to slow down, you can then artificially pump it up even a little more, and that way show people, hey, we're growing again, cool, or say, hey, we just reached 75% or whatever the hell. So keep that in mind. That 50,000, a big bunch of that is probably from out of their own pockets just to get the crowdfunding going. But yeah, of course, this basic crowdfunding knowledge is not part of a producer's curriculum for some fucking reason. So yeah, to put a kind of a conclusion, producers are fucking hypocrites when they bitch about musicians making money. Secondly, musicians should be making money however they can, especially because they had to put in years of not making a dime, building up their audience. Third, when they then start getting some kind of leverage, some kind of capitalization, some kind of money stream from that audience, that is no fucking problem. Fourth, that audience chooses what they do with their money. This is not those musicians taking it from their pockets like little goblins. No, the audience chooses, hey, I want to support these people. I'm gonna pay and I get something cool in return that I want. It's completely voluntarily. And 5, if you think this is a problem, you either don't know anything about production costs at a larger scale or you don't know anything about crowdfunding. So that was it for this episode of the Solemn Tones podcast. Hope you found it interesting. If you did, please leave a positive review on iTunes and I will see you soon. Ciao.